in St. Augustine on March the 5th, 2005, wearing a t-shirt that says "No Excuse for Abuse" slogan on it. I had gotten it from the Alpha Omega Miracle Center booth that was at the entrance to the Kmart that I was going into, and I picked it up for $10. Police officer came up to me and started asking me some questions like, is there anybody else with you, what are you doing here, etc. But while he was doing that, I felt this supernatural sensation come over my body, and it was really amazing. My whole body was bathed in this sort of supernatural sensation, and I've tried to figure out what it was since then. I've looked up things online. One of them's called the supernatural, the True Workings of God and the Counterfeits of Satan by Jessie Penn Lewis. It was written in 1912, I think, and she has a whole chart of what's the true workings of God and what's the counterfeits of Satan. And the feeling disappeared as soon as this officer touched my shoulder with the palm of his hand.
A house in New Orleans, they call the rising sun, and it's been the ruin of many a poor boy. God, I know I'm one.
She told me this when we were on an Easter car trip in 2003. My immediate response in my head was, I better handle this the best way that I can. And what I said to her is that something about the police. I wanted to know why she was telling me this and hadn't told the police. And she said the police don't care. I found that hard to believe. Then she said nobody cares. I didn't even think about that because I was still thinking about the police not caring. I found out that the police that she's talking about, she's right. They don't they don't do things right. They threaten my life, and they must have made her feel afraid too, because before they threatened my life, she was telling me that she was going to deny that she had ever told me that she had been sexually abused by her stepfather, because she was afraid that they were going to do something to me. That was when I was going to confront him about it. Not necessarily confront, but talk with him. I tried a couple times to talk with him, to get information from him, and to see if this was maybe not true or something. But what I believe now, with a lot of certainty, is that he did sexually abuse her. I saw him abuse her in other ways and intimidate her verbally, etc. And when I went to talk to him, he told me a few things in defense of himself. He actually said something about doing something with her in the shower, and how, you know, he was in the shower with his kids. But I don't know why he said that, because I hadn't said anything about that. She hadn't said anything about a shower to me. All she told me is exactly what he had made her do, not where he made her do it. So I don't know, he was probably trying to confuse the issue or something, or he just didn't know what she had told me, or what she hadn't told me. She got really hysterical when I went to talk to him and nothing came out of it. And then I tried to go to talk to him again. That's when she got scared and expressed to me very, very much with all of her ability that she did not want me going back over there. And finally, when she got me alone, she told me, quote, "Do you know what they're going to do to you?" I found that hard to take in also. Later on, after things started getting really weird, it was Child Abuse Awareness Month, and I had bought a t-shirt that says "No Excuse for Abuse" on it, because the Alpha Omega House or the Betty Griffin House or somebody had set up a booth on my way into the Kmart, and I bought it. And I was staying at a hotel in Jacksonville. I was back in Jacksonville, in the area and in Jacksonville, because I was dealing with a real estate client. I'd gotten involved in real estate, dealing with buying and selling properties. Well, I woke up in the morning after I bought that t-shirt, and I opened the Bible like I love to do, and it said, "Stand ye still and wait upon the Lord." Right where I opened it up to, right in the morning, right after I bought this t-shirt. So I said, I better use that. I wrote it down on a slip of paper, I guess, because the police later took it out of my pocket, I guess, and shoved it in my face, telling me it was sick. But I don't know where that came from, that they would say a Bible verse is sick, but I think what I did is I wore the t-shirt down on the corner across from the place where I bought it, on the pedestrian crossing island, because I was beginning to understand that there was a problem in the area, in the community, the area, with child abuse and it not being dealt with. I wanted to see just how much it was not being dealt with. So I stood there with a t-shirt on, and even though it was raining, I'll admit I was standing out there in the rain. I opened the Bible and saw that verse that morning, so that I did it anyway. But the police officers that came up to me after I'd been out there for a little while acted very, very horribly about what happened. They threatened to kill me. They also falsely imprisoned me. They got mad at me. They got offended. And I don't know why. I was only trying to be polite to them. They took me to jail, falsely imprisoned me, and the day afterwards, they let me out. Now, I had been totally shocked because I hadn't committed any crimes and was in jail. And I was so shocked by what they had done to me. And what they had done to me is obviously the same sort of thing that they had done to Shira, to make her realize that they were in control and that she was not. Well, I felt what they had put her through when I was in that jail cell, because I hadn't committed any crimes, and yet I was being locked up, confined, and the abuse was not being addressed. I was down on my knees praying in the jail cell that the Holy Spirit, when I went before the judge the next day, would cause me to speak, because I had been falsely imprisoned, what I should speak before the judge. And I made a point not to think about it, because it says in the Bible, don't consider what you're going to say when you're delivered up to judges, etc., for my name's sake. And I was trying to expose sexual abuse that I knew about, which wasn't being addressed, which is a Christian thing to do, and so it was for his name's sake, and I was falsely accused and put in prison. So I did what it says the Holy Spirit, how to do this with the Holy Spirit. Let the Holy Spirit speak through you. Do not think about what you're going to say, because the Holy Spirit will give you the words to say in that hour. Well, when I went before the judge, I said, I'm not going to tell anybody about this, but I didn't do anything wrong. When I said that, the judge was immediately interrupted by the prosecution, and he said they were offering me a plea bargain and would let me go, and that was a big relief. So I took it. But I understood it was with the condition that I wouldn't tell anybody about this. Well, I have forgotten the names of the officers involved, and I don't intend to point them out specifically anyway, because they were probably Well, they were actually, I could tell that they were trained by their cohorts to act this way. They were all, honestly, they were short, mostly, and there was like 5 or 6 of them, and I don't know if they themselves knew what they were doing. But what they did is intentionally threaten to throw me off of a bridge with handcuffs on into the storming sea. They pointed my head towards the water, showed me the waves, and put handcuffs on me. Now, this was after they became offended at me for just being myself, because I knew that they had been detaining me for about 20 minutes for no reason. And when they said they had something else they had to go do, I became relieved. And they were all excited about going to do something else. I didn't know what it was. So I said, well, it's nice to see people who enjoy their jobs. And I was also in a slightly better mood because I knew they'd be leaving me alone then. And the one turned around, became angry, walked up, put his face into my face, pointed his finger at me, and said, "You're going to jail." At that point, now I have to say, even though this is kind of what I said I wouldn't tell anybody about, I have to say this because it's the part that's affecting a lot of other people. At that point, they took out a piece of paper and wrote down false charges. They wrote down that I had been running out in the street, yelling profanities, disrupting traffic,